appears that they already have a preferred candidate to replace him.
That's right, that candidate is Sporting's Ruben Amorim, and the club are in talks with the Portuguese manager over becoming Ten Hag's successor.
In this video I'm going to break down Ruben Amorim's possession strategy, analysing how despite using a 3-2-5 or a 3-1-6 in possession, Amorim's actual possession strategy makes his system a lot more effective than Ten Hag's. And after the video analysis of Amorim's Sporting Lisbon, I'll come on to how I think Amorim would set up this United side and how I think his system could get the best out of the likes of Xerxes, Rashford, Ahmad, Lisandro Martinez and Bruno Fernandes. So we'll start off with a game from last season in the Premier League when Sporting were up against a team called Chavez, who rather than pressing Sporting aggressively were choosing to retreat into the middle third. You can see Sporting are carrying the ball out of their own box in a back three. I think at Manchester United we maybe see Andre Onana being given the freedom to push out with the ball, taking up a position in the back four or a back three, and giving United a free man and the opportunity to create overloads. But in this game we see how Amorim would go about breaking down a deep defensive block, which is what United have struggled with over the past few seasons. So here you can see Chavez have dropped off in the middle third in a narrow 4-4-2, and from the initial setup it does look very similar to what Ten Hag was using at United, a back three with a midfield double pivot in front as well as a front five ahead. However, the actual possession strategy that Amorim uses is a lot more well coordinated and effective than what Ten Hag was using. See, unlike Ten Hag's United where there was a lot of circulation from side to side without much penetration, Amorim's strategy is very intentional with playing through the centre. And you can see that here, Sebastian Coates has the ball. Now if this is under Ten Hag, the ball probably gets circulated across that back three a few times before eventually going back to the keeper and then just going long anyway. But with Amorim instilling this intention of playing through the centre into his players, Coates doesn't play the easy pass sideways, instead he splits the Chavez front two, with the pass going into Morten Højlund, who very cleverly has taken up a position between the two centre forwards in order to open up the passing lane for Coates to feed the ball into him. And you can see how well trained the Sporting Lisbon players are in this type of situation, as rather than simply receiving the ball with his back to goal and then having to take another touch to turn, Højlund receives the ball side on, turns immediately and now can look to play forward. And now you can see Amorim's possession strategy take place. Once the ball is moved in behind the front two, now Sporting want to work the ball in behind the midfield line, and this is achieved by having the front three, the two players in the half space as well as Gyökeres the centre forward, drop off in order to receive the ball to feet. And this is where we've set patterns of play, maybe with the centre forward dropping off and one of the two players in the half space making a run in behind. A possession strategy like this can be incredibly effective. However, in this situation Gyökeres doesn't check his shoulder, he could probably just turn out with the ball, he looks for a pass, the centre back has remained deep, and when that pass goes into the player in the half space, he's able to move out and make the interception. And we see this pattern of play quite a lot when Sporting have the ball in the middle third. You've got the back three, the midfield double pivot in front, with the wingers holding high and wide positions, and the two players in the half space sitting either side of the centre forward. And you can clearly see how this has been worked on in training. It's essentially a game of trying to penetrate that hexagon shape with the front two and the midfield line of the opposition, trying to work the ball into one of the midfield double pivot, and then get the ball out the other side into one of the two players in the half space or the centre forward, from where these players can try to link the play with their back to goal or look to take advantage of the space that is created when one of the opposition's defensive line pushes out to follow one of these players between the lines. Here once again, rather than just simply circulating the ball from side to side, the central centre-back Sebastian Coates is once again looking for that penetrative pass, splitting the Chavez front line, and once again Højlund is able to turn out with the ball immediately, receiving the ball first time on his back foot, and now you can see the opportunity for Sporting to link the play between the lines. He could play the pass into Gyökeres, who can link the play either side, or he could look to find Trincao in the half space, but what is also interesting is because of Trincao's position, sitting between the Chavez left-sided midfielder and the left-sided central midfielder, now their left back is forced into a dilemma. Either he leaves Trincao completely free, opening up the pass for Højlund to just thread into him, from where Trincao under no pressure can turn and drive forward, or the left back can do what he does, which is follow Trincao into this deeper position, but this opens up space for the wing back on the touchline to make a run into, and if Sporting could have worked this move a bit better, they could have got their right wing back in behind the Chavez back line. And so the main difference between Ten Hag and Amorim's possession setup is the strategy behind it. Amorim's strategy is very clear. Can we work the ball in behind the opposition's frontline press and then look to bounce the ball out in behind the midfield, using the wing-backs to hold high and wide positions and stretch the opposition's defensive line horizontally, whilst the fact that the two players in the half space as well as the centre forward are looking to drop off and link the play is also going to cause the opposition centre-backs issues, trying to work out whether they should follow their player deep and open up space in behind, potentially for runners in the half space to burst into, or hold their positions and allow the front three to link the play between the lines, likely allowing Amorim's side to work the ball in behind the midfield line and progress the ball into the final third. But Amorim also has variety in his possession system. Here we see Sporting now moving the ball down the right channel, and here we see exactly what I think Manchester United were missing: coordinated patterns of play and movements. But before I break that down, just a quick reminder, I will be doing my Telegram in-game match analysis throughout the Manchester United-Leicester game, talking about Ruud van Nistelrooy's tactical setup and any changes he makes. If you want to sign up for that, go on to my Patreon. You can also get access to unreleased videos and articles as well. I'll leave it linked in the eye above, the description, as well as the comment section and on the end screen at the end of the video. So here we see Sporting have the ball on the right side, but the possession structure still remains the same. You've still got the back three with Coates as the deepest, basically playing as a sweeper covering centre back. But if you look on the right side, you can see how Amorim's positional setup enables Sporting to create these triangles and diamonds. Trincao has initially pulled out slightly wider with the wing back ahead of him, drawing the Chavez left back close to him, and this is going to be crucial to how Sporting open up space. So ball goes into the right wing back, and you can see the full back has moved out to pressurise him, and you can see this initial diamond setup. But as the wing back plays the ball back to the right sided centre back Neto, because the Sporting right wing back has dropped into a deeper position, this has pulled the Chavez left back high. This has opened up space in behind the left back, and now Trincao is going to make a movement down the line off of his man. However, once again we see the importance of having players in the back three who have the ability to play these incisive midfield splitting passes, as Neto's able to split the Chavez left-sided midfielder and the left-sided central midfielder with a pass into the wing-back. Morten Heumann, the central midfielder on that side, has moved in behind the Chavez central midfield, which means when the pass gets played into the wing-back, he bounces the ball back inside, and now Trincao has been able to run in behind the Chavez left-back who's been caught high. Heumann threads the pass in behind, and now Trincao has a 1v1 inside of the Chavez box. And this is exactly the type of movement that Ten Hag's United were lacking. They were far too static, and there wasn't coordination between the runs and movements. If a player drops deep as the wing-back did, that is going to drag a player out of the back line. But you need players who are going to be able to make third-man runs as Trincao did here, and also the ability to play line-breaking passes into congested areas, bounce the ball back out, in order to then enable your side to get in behind the back line. And so it's not as simple as just giving the players a possession setup and expecting them to be able to break down a system themselves. You need to be able to work on these kinds of patterns of play, and if Amorim is able to implement this at Manchester United, this should almost become second nature after a while, and enable us to get into dangerous positions inside of the box, not just through individual brilliance, but through the actual system and the patterns of play. Here in this example, Benfica are going to engage Sporting Lisbon higher up the pitch than Chavez did. You can see Sporting Lisbon are set up with their 3-4-3 with a double pivot in front of the back three, but as Coates receives the ball and Rafa Silva moves to pressurise him, look how Morita reads the play. He knows that Diomande is in space on Sporting's left side, and so he makes a movement between Rafa Silva and Kochu, opening up the passing lane for Coates to split the Benfica front line. And even though João Neves does push out to try to stop Morita turning, Morita plays a bounce pass out to Diomande, who can now stride forward, and Rafa Silva is taken out of the game. But even here, as Diomande has possession and Neves is pushed out, you can see how the close proximity of the players in Amorim's possession setup opens up the opportunity for these short passes. Diomande should really be looking to play the pass into Morita, from where he can either look to turn and find Edwards, who's sitting in behind João Mario between the lines, or bounce a pass into Pedro Goncalves, who can then look to play the pass in behind into Gyökeres or Edwards. And so you can see it's Ruben Amorim's positional setup which sets up these opportunities for the Sporting Lisbon players. And even if Sporting don't take the opportunity to play these vertical passes between the lines, they are still looking to keep the play central rather than moving the ball out wide, where it's easier for the opposition to press. And so the ball gets worked to Morita, back out to Sebastian Coates, but this is also where we see the variety in Ruben Amorim's game, as when the opportunity is there, he does want his backline to look for these longer passes over the opposition's backline, which keeps the opposition guessing and maybe stops them pushing up high in order to squeeze the space between the lines, because they know Amorim's side can look for a more direct route over the top if they allow too much space. But how would Amorim's system function with the current United squad? Well, I actually think United's individual players not only suit Amorim's style of play, but also this particular system as well. With a back three in possession of Dalot, De Ligt and Martinez, you've got 3 players in the back three who are more than capable of finding those incisive, forward line splitting passes into the likes of Mainu and Agate playing as a double pivot. Agate has played under Amorim before, so that's obviously a bonus, but I think both Mainu and Agate will suit these short and sharp bounce passes when they are receiving the ball between the opposition's forward and midfield line. Now, the left wing back position is obviously an issue, considering Ten Hag's basically purged any left-footed left back that we had at the club. Shaw and Malacia are eternally injured, and Alvaro Fernandez has been sold. And so until maybe January, where United bring back Alvaro Fernandez or bring in a left-footed fullback who can play as a wing-back, you're probably going to have to use Antony there. But I actually think using a narrow front three suits both Ahmad and Rashford. Ahmad likes to drift infield anyways, and just like Marcus Edwards for Amorim at Sporting Lisbon, I think he'd be perfect to drop into this right-sided half space, receiving the ball a lot more often in central positions between the lines, rather than receiving the ball on the outside of the fullback isolated in a 1v1, which is what we saw from Ten Hag, and I definitely think receiving the ball in central positions suits his game a lot better. Though the same goes for Rashford on the far side, the issue with him under Ten Hag is that he's dropping far too deep and receiving the ball in positions where he is the one playing the long pass in behind. Really, you want him close to Xerxes, where Xerxes can drop off from the forward line, looking to receive the ball to feet from one of the midfield double pivot. From here, he's going to drag a centre back out of the back line, where from either Xerxes can link the play, which he does do very well with his back to goal. I think he's perfect for the centre forward role in Amorim's system because of how good he is with those 1 and 2 touch layoffs in congested areas. And from here, when a centre back moves out with him, that's going to create the space for Rashford to make a run into, but instead of making a run from out to in from a wide position, he can make a run from a more central position, meaning that when he is released, he'll likely be receiving the ball in a central position, which is a lot more optimal for scoring, rather than receiving the ball in a wider position inside of the box, where he still has to beat his man in order to get a shot away. Bruno Fernandes would also be well suited to a narrow role in a front three, where just like Ahmad, he can be the one receiving the ball to feet and looking to thread the pass in behind, whereas Garnacho is going to be playing more of the Rashford role, mainly looking to provide the movement in behind the back line when one of Xerxes or Højlund drop off to receive the ball to feet. So overall, despite him not being my first choice, I am very happy with Ruben Amorim being appointed as United manager. I am of course going to have to wait to see how he sets up the side before I am able to give a concrete opinion on how I think he will do at United. But until then, I will be releasing some other analysis videos, a Q&A as well, so let me know your questions on Amorim in the comment section. Sign up to my Patreon for the Telegram group chat. We'll be discussing everything during the Leicester game, so I'll leave that linked on the end screen, the eye above, description and the comment section as well.